Welcome back to Camp Out West on our tiny house build series. If you're new here, we're Emily and John, and here's a recap on what we've done so far and our plans for this build. Last year we sold our home and all our belongings to buy this abandoned caravan park that used to be home to the coal miners. When the mine closed back in 1989, the caravan park had been left to become completely overgrown. So as the new owners, we've been working hard over the last year and a half to clear up all the leftover rubbish alongside our day jobs. We have transformed the land. First we removed the old caravans, recycling everything we could find. Then we started work levelling the ground, making a blank canvas for where our first tiny house will go. Our land came with planning permissions for 3 residential park homes, so we are following the BS 3632 British standard for the build, building them onto chassis so they are movable. We had ours specially made by a company called UE Chassis, who build to the specialist park home regulations. Next we poured our concrete slab where our tiny house will go. Last week we moved our chassis into place and today we officially start the build. So let's dive into episode 2 of our tiny house build series, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see how we get on.
Morning, so we're up bright and early today. We are waiting for an exciting delivery with the start of our materials arriving for our tiny house build.
Yeah, so today we've got turning up 2x6 lengths of timber, which is going to be for our actual framing of the floor. We've also got our insulation turning up, so we've gone and bought 26 rolls, which comes on 2 big pallets.
Yeah, we need to somehow figure out how that's going to fit and store in our shipping container first.
Yeah, so we've bought 26 rolls, or 26 packs. I think there's 3 or 4 rolls in each pack. Basically worked out cheaper for us to buy it all in one go. And this is going to do the floor of the cabin, and it should do most of the walls, I think. But the insulation that we've gone with, so because we're building within the Caravan Act, the Park Home residential spec, there's minimum requirements. So the level of insulation we've gone for, that sort of exceeds what we need. So it's way above the minimum requirement.
Yeah, so we're ticking all the boxes.
Yeah. And then we think even in the future, once we've framed it, we might add some PIR insulation inside as well, just to add like another level of insulation.
Yeah, because for us as well, it's important to make sure that we can make our cost of living as cheap as possible. So the more insulation, the more efficient the house will be.
Yeah, so it feels quite expensive now, but we're hoping obviously going a bit over the top with it means that it will save us long term.
Yeah, it's worth the investment.
Yeah, and then the other material that's coming today is we've bought a product called Egger Protect, and that is what we're using. So once we've framed the floor, put in our insulation, that's going to be our actual floor. So Egger Protect is it's like a chipboard material. So it's 22mm chipboard, and it's got like a protective coating on the top. It's kind of like a phenolic plywood, if you know what that is.
Like a waterproof protect on it.
And then when you put these boards together, you use a PU glue, which is kind of like an expanding foam glue. And basically once that's all gone off, all these pieces of wood together become one massive weatherproof material. So it says that you can leave it out in the rain for 6 weeks. So we've gone and spent a little bit extra on this material because once we've got a dry enough day to put it down, it should give us 6 weeks of playing out in the weather to get the walls and the roof up.
Yeah, because you know the weather here, especially in the winter, we get so much rain, so we figured paying a bit extra for this flooring just made more sense to make sure we can just keep everything as dry as possible. So fingers crossed we can get everything to fit in our shipping container and it stays dry for us offloading.
So that's our job right now.
Yeah. Thank you. We got it all in.
So we've got our materials. So before we can actually start cutting the materials and start framing, we've got to position the steel chassis on the concrete slab. So this is basically where it's going to live. and then we're going to jack it up off the floor so the weight is off the tyres, and then we've actually got these galvanised axle stands, and that's what the chassis is going to be balanced on. So we've put the chassis in position of where it's going to live. We're going to save jacking it up off the ground for a little bit later, but we're basically securing the corners. We've put the axle stands, so now that we can basically walk and stand on the chassis and it doesn't roll away or it doesn't tip. So while we've got them, these are basically the hurricane tie downs. So if you remember when we laid the concrete, we put these steel galvanized hoops sunk into the concrete, and we're going to use these chains and these shackles to actually secure the chassis to the floor. So I guess it's probably not that much of a problem now, but once we've got like the floor on, if the wind does come up, it obviously will want to try and pull the chassis. So that's what these are going on for, to hold the chassis down in the high winds. There you go. Now the chassis was level and secure, I decided to make some trestles out of some leftover timber so I had a clean and stable surface to start work on the floor frame. Next we rolled out the floor membrane, which the cabin floor will sit on top of. Then it was time to start framing the base of the floor. As you can see, the DIY trestles worked really well. We then started cutting and fitting the floor joists. There was 21 in total, spaced at 40cm centres, making up our 8-metre cabin length. We've just finished cutting all the timbers for this flooring. Because we're putting it onto the chassis, we're lucky everything's nice and flat. So we've actually just placed these into position. None of these are attached yet. So our next job is to obviously fasten them. We actually bought a first fix nail gun, but we're still waiting on the nails to arrive. So we're actually going to have to do this by hand. So hammer and nails. So that's going to be our next job. And then we're going to do a row of noggins down the middle. And then we've got some rodent mesh, which we're going to be installing in between the rafters to try and keep the mice from getting into our insulation. We tacked on the edges of the membrane to the floor frame. Lastly, we tidied up the edges by trimming off the excess membrane. A constant challenge for us on the land has been powering our tools to bring our projects to life. As we don't have mains electricity on this part of the land, we heavily rely on portable power stations and generators to power our projects. Special thank you to Anker SOLIX for gifting us the Anker SOLIX f2000 Powerhouse 767 and for supporting this tiny house build. We've tried and tested so many of the portable power stations on the market, and we get a lot of people asking us for our recommendations, so we thought we'd give you the rundown on the Powerhouse 767 and tell you why it's so great. The f2000 comes with a massive 2048 watt-hour battery capacity, which has been able to power all our tools that we've used for this house build so far. 2 grinders, a pressure washer, a circular saw, a planer, a vacuum, as well as charging our drone and iPad at the same time. We also use it in our caravan to power our electric oven, kettle, blender and coffee machine. It comes with 10 ports, including 3 AC ports, 3 USB-C charging ports, 2 USB-A ports and 2 car outlets. It has a rapid recharge function, charging from 0 to 80% in just 1 hour, and has long-lasting LifePro 4 batteries, which have a lifespan of up to 3,000 charge cycles, or the equivalent to 10 years of use, and comes with a 5-year warranty. Out of all of the portable power stations we've used, this has been the easiest to transport for a generator of this capacity. It feels solid, but it's still lightweight. It comes with wheels and an easy tow retractable handle, which is really good if you're outside or on the go. As well as using this on our projects day to day, it's really reassuring to know that we've got this as a backup power supply on the land for the up and coming winter and any power cuts. We also love that it comes with a built-in light, which is great for emergency situations. If you're looking for a portable power station or a backup home solution for this winter, we've added a link in the description so you can find out more. You can also save up to £1,200 off Anker in their Black Friday sale, which is online now. Big thank you to Anker for sponsoring this video and for supporting our tiny house build.
The next day we got up early to attempt to dry off the base after a night of rain and started work on the noggins, which helped strengthen and support the middle of the floor.
So this is our first noggin going in. I think we've got 20 or 21 in total. So we're going to stagger them down the middle to be flush. So we have invested in this, which is a first fix nail gun. So the hope is that this is going to speed everything up, and it means that we're not going to be like endlessly hammering. So we're thinking for our neighbours, this should be a lot nicer. So here's our first nail with it. Like, that's a lot easier than hammering. So hopefully this is going to help a lot with doing the cabin. So these are the nails that we're using. They're galvanised annular ring shank nails. So they've got like little ridges on them. So when they go into the wood and the wood keeps drying, because the wood's quite fresh, it'll actually tighten up on these and then it will give a really strong hold.
While John was working on the floor noggins, I was in the garden collecting the seed pods that had dried on our rocket plant so I could save the seeds for planting for next spring.
We've just finished now with all the staggered noggins all the way down the middle. They're looking really good. We've got a couple of areas where there's like slight height differences, I think where the timber's slightly warped. So we're going to go over them with a planer just to flatten it all off before we put our floor on. But a massive thank you to Bruce. He stopped by with us to gift us his old planer that he wasn't using anymore. And we've had it for a year now, never had a use. But here we are starting on our cabin build floor. And thank you, Bruce. It's actually the perfect tool.
So John's now finished the structure of the floor of the cabin, and now I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to attach the rodent mesh. So this rodent mesh is just to stop any animals digging underneath and trying to live in our installation. And to attach it, we're going to use these wooden battens. So this is just going to add support underneath to hold the weight of the insulation, because at the moment we've just got the membrane. So by adding this, it will help attach the rodent mesh and also just support the weight of all the insulation. Okay, this is a view underneath the chassis just so you can see what we are doing under here. So, this is the batten that we've added on, and you can see our rodent mesh, and this has just added so much support that's not even moving, so that will hold the weight of the insulation really well. So that's all down on the first panel, and then add it all up here. You can see that's super loose. So the mesh should just add the support. It's actually quite comfy under here. But the skateboard, it was John's idea. It's actually really good because it supports my whole back. So we're just gonna carry on doing the rest of it. This is not easy working this way. We took it in turns, with one person attaching the mesh under the chassis and the other cutting the wood battens to size. Maggie? Maggie? Where's John? Is he under there? Is he under there? Oh, you're standing on him! Kisses for your dad, kisses! Kisses for your dad!
So this has taken a hell of a lot of more effort than we thought. So obviously coming in on your back, kind of like working under the car. But yeah, we've got there in the end. So we've got this I'll show you what we've done. So we've got this 6mm Rodent Mesh, and then it's all been supported by all of this roofing batter. So this has gone up, this is so solid you could hang off this. This is going into the underside of our floor joists, and then these extra supports then is where these panels of the Rodent Mesh join up. So it's pretty cool, pretty satisfying what we've managed to do. So we finally finished with all the Rodent Mesh. That took way longer. I think like every job we do, everything takes a lot longer than we thought. So that took 2 days pretty much of lying on the skateboard and ferrying back and forth, trying to like hold up the batten, hold up the mesh, get the screws in.
I think out of everything we've done on the land so far, that to me was the hardest job.
Yeah.
It made me realise how much little upper arm strength I actually have.
And yeah, my abs hurt from just scooting around on my back.
So now we've done that, the next job on the tiny house build will be doing all of our insulation, but we are predicted rain this afternoon and for the next few days, so that will be on hold while we wait for dry weather. We'll show you a clip now of our little undercover rain thing we've tried to do on the chassis. As you can see, it hasn't really worked. The wind has destroyed it. So if you've got any ideas of what we could do to make a rain cover for the house build, let us know in the comments.
Yeah, we just need to get this floor done in like dry weather, because we're putting in the insulation and obviously it's wood, and then we're covering it with like a weather tight material. We just need like a little window of weather where it can dry out, so we can actually get all that stuff under the floor dry and sealed in, and then we don't care then if it rains because we can build the walls in the pouring rain.
Yeah, but this bit just needs to stay dry. So if you have any tips or suggestions of what we could do as just like a temporary rain shelter, because we just can't think of anything. And also we're really excited to tell you about an event that we're going to be at, which you guys can all come to. We are doing our first ever pop-up shop on December the 2nd at the Coaltown Coffee Roastery in Ammanford, Wales.
Coaltown Coffee also has a rich coal mining history similar to our land. Our land was once home to hundreds of coal miners who used to work in the colliery across the road. In fact, my granddad Islane Rosser worked at this exact mine.
Coaltown Coffee is based in another ex-mining town where anthracite coal, known back then as black gold, fueled their local economy. But when the last of the collieries closed, it left a lot of Wales without any work. So Coaltown wanted to bring a new industry and jobs to their community by creating a new version of black gold with the launch of their incredible coffee and roastery.
We were invited to take part in their Christmas pop-up market on December the 2nd, so we wanted to invite you all along too. We'll be selling our exclusive Camp Out West coffee as hand roasted in Wales by Coaltown, as well as selling our hand poured candles that both Em and I make in our little candle studio. There will also be an amazing selection of other local businesses and food companies taking part.
So if you're local and want to come down on the 2nd of December, 12 until 5 PM for coffee, cakes and a catch up, we'd love to see you.
So for those that aren't local, or if you can't make it on the day to the event, all of our stuff is online for sale. So if you have a look in the links in the descriptions, you can see it all there.
And I really feel like, fingers crossed, we have a chance of being in by Christmas. I don't know about you. Let us know in the comments what you think. What do you think, John?
I think we can get something livable before Christmas. It's not going to be finished, but I think if we can have a waterproof place that we can heat, because it's going to be insulated.
Yeah, even if we just had a mattress on the floor, I'd be happy with that.
That's an upgrade on our current living situation.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at CampoutwestPR to see what we get up to in the week, but we'll see you soon.
See you next time.